as you know, this is a story of characters of Fitzrovia, and as a long-standing resident of Fitzrovia, I am just so thrilled that you have brought the true spirit of the best of Fitzrovia with your gallery, TJ Boulting. And I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how you found the building.
I came to see Josh Lilly when he opened in 2009, and I didn't really know Fitzrovia at all. We were in Shoreditch for many years, and I just felt instantly at home when I started kind of walking around. I went to the pub, it just felt like an amazing area. And I just started walking around and looking at places, and then I saw a sign outside TJ Boulting, and I really didn't think that it was a gallery space, but I just thought, what an amazing building. And I was purely being nosy, and I called up the estate agent and I said, can I go inside? And then by pure chance, it was a perfect gallery space.
Hannah, that's amazing, because that's like me. I came here to deliver a print in 1987 or something, and the same thing, I saw a space to rent and rang up the guy and it was done. But we're standing now in the Fitzrovia Chapel, of which you are a trustee, but also you have curated this extraordinary exhibition. I really want to congratulate you. I think it's one of the most exciting exhibitions I've seen. Certainly, I think the best exhibition in London at the moment. And the vision to put it in this incredible chapel. I mean, Lee Bowery would have loved you. Did you ever know Lee Bowery?
No, I didn't, no. I keep thinking, I wish I had known him.
Top Aussie he was. Actually, do you know, I met him. I met him back in the day at a club. Yes, he was like really lovely. I don't know if he knew I was Australian, but yeah, we embraced. But
did you know he was Australian?
Yes. It kind of came out, and so we had a hug.
Okay.
I don't know, not in one of the. Maybe he was wearing a spotty thing. But listen, how did this show come about? It's so wonderful.
It came about when I heard that he had died in the Middlesex Hospital. And we often do exhibitions that relate to the history of the hospital because the chapel is the only remaining part of the hospital. And the Middlesex was famous because it had the first AIDS ward in London, so that's often something that we tap into. And when I heard that Lee had died here, I just thought, okay, this is a fabulous opportunity to bring his life, his creations. I've always been inspired and in awe of him. So it was a kind of selfish motive really, just to get a chance to do something like this.
But how did you know about him? How did he percolate into your consciousness? Because I mean, the club scene of the 80s, I mean, actually it's probably useful for people that don't know if you actually say who he was.
Lee Bowery was a performance artist, a designer, a club figure, he had a band, he kind of spanned many worlds. He's very famous as being Lucian Freud's model, where he appeared totally different to his personality, his persona, where he was totally naked. He was a very big, bald guy, but when he dressed up in his creations, he had these incredible costumes, which is what we have here. They were beautifully made, technically brilliant, lots of sequins, lots of drama, masks.
Did he actually make them?
Yes.
He actually sewed them?
He was really technically skilled, and
I mean, incredible if you think this beading.
So the beading is made by his friend Nicola Bateman, who's his really close assistant. So she was the
and she would actually do the threading of the beads and that.
And in the early days, the sequins were quite large because he often had quite a tight turnaround.
Yeah.
But then as it got through the years, he started getting smaller and smaller sequins, and these bugle beads, the smallest thing. And this outfit is actually when he was using flesh as his favourite fabric. So this would actually be worn with nothing apart from this and then a merkin.
I mean, just, you know, we're talking 1980s, so that's almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was so avant-garde, wasn't it? I mean, and of course there was also Andrew Logan and the alternative Miss World. Did those two worlds, did Lee and Andrew Logan ever coincide?
Yeah, Lee did it in the alternative Miss World in 1986. And that was when he first started, because a lot of people talk about him being an entertainer. So he had the kind of bucket on his head as a hat, and then this big kind of dress, and he was falling over, and it was quite comedy. But that was his kind of early...
but that was really his introduction,
yeah.
So he did start from that. Because I think Andrew Logan's another person who's sort of never had his dues, particularly now in the current sexual debates. You know, he's really not been acknowledged for what he did with the alternative Miss World.
Yeah.
But I think this is beyond that. This is art. I mean, it transcends everything. What was Lee's background? What was his...
He studied kind of fashion in Australia, but it was very traditional. And then he came to London. He worked with Pearl, the corseter. So that's where he learned a lot of his technical training.
Yes.
And then he was he started just experimenting with his own design. So he would spend hours and hours and hours, months, basically working on each costume, trialing it, experimenting it, till he got it perfect. So he always had a really strong idea of what he wanted, and then apart from that, it was just trialing and experimenting.
It's just extra. I look at these all and just think each one is so magnificent, and just the vision to do that when you don't have much money. Presumably, he didn't have much money, and to actually have to scrimp and save to buy the satin and the feathers, and then just to have the courage to go out there and wear it.
Yeah.
And what was his audience? Who was he doing it for?
His audience, I would say, he was showing off in the clubs. That's where he would think of presenting. So it was Kinky Galinky was a big night. That was his big kind of stomping ground, and it would be like, right, we've got to present this at a certain night. Then he started going on TV. There's a costume here which was from a show called Take the Blame, and he had a weekly appearance.
Hannah, so it's really extraordinary because these costumes could so easily have been thrown away in the 80s because of their ephemeral nature for a nightclub. So I think it's really full credit to you for tracking them down. I mean, quite astonishing, and you must have been so amazed. Where were they?
They were with Nicola Bateman, and Nicola was the person who did all of the sequining, was a very close friend of Lee, and he actually married her 6 months before he died. Even though he was a gay man, he did marry her for several reasons. He did love her, they were very close, but also there was a sense that he did want someone to look after him and his legacy. So when he died, she took all of the costumes and she's looked after them ever since.
Oh my goodness, but I mean, how do you store something like this? I mean, really, and presumably she didn't have a lot of money, she couldn't pay for kind of archive storage at the V&A or something.
No, she keeps them in her house and she has custom-made cupboards.
Oh.
But the good thing about a lot of the materials is that they were man-made, they're not natural fibres. So there's not a lot of...
moths?
No.
Well, having said that, this looks like pure wool embroidery.
This is different. This is this Liberty fabric called Cruel Work, and this was actually very expensive at the time. It was like £35 a metre.
Yeah, I remember everyone had curtains out. It was really fashionable. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was actually the most kind of expensive material he ever bought. But usually it was kind of polyester or kind of man-made satin, lots of sequins.
Oh God, it's just amazing. And Nicola had just sort of lived with these. That must be quite amazing, just living in a house with these.
Yeah, I mean, she has them in storage, but it's really important for her to look after them because she loves them very much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, that is so wonderful. And how did you choose what you wanted? I think the way you have curated this is so brilliant, with the feathers there, like a holy chalice, and then these two guardian angels. It's really brilliant how you've curated it.
It was difficult to choose because there are so many amazing costumes, and my eyes were bigger than my stomach when I first went to see her because they were so iconic, and when you actually see things that you've seen in photographs for years and up close, you really just think, I have to show that. But we essentially chose the ones that would look best in the chapel, so the sequins, the drama against the gold mosaic, and the piece with the altarpiece, the feathers, and then the one in the organ loft. I don't know if you've seen that one. For just pure drama.
It's just one of the great shots. It's hard to see. What is the fabric of that one?
That's velveteen. It's like a stretch material.
Yeah.
And then you would wear it with this almost like a motorbike helmet underneath, and it's got a big stomach ball underneath.
And I think also the way you've aligned these with the altar, I think is just really, what I admire is your restraint, because it would have been so easy to have one there and one there and one there, but you've actually, by being so restrained and thoughtful in your curation, you've actually made it a perfect exhibition with the marriage of the place and the art.
Yeah, it's not a museum retrospective. That will happen obviously one day.
Yes, it hasn't it? Congratulations to you for doing it first.
Yeah. It's been so popular. there.
Oh, has it?
Hundreds
Has
of
it?
people already.
Has it?
Yeah.
Has it? Oh, well, again, thank you for bringing all these people to Fitzrovia. I mean, it's really, honestly, it's just so wonderful what you're doing. And do you find that the spirit of Lee is Fitzrovian? I mean, where did he live? Did he live?
He lived in Commercial Road in East London.
Right.
So that's where he often used to get all of his fabric from all the fabric shops in East London.
But he died here.
He died here. He died about 50 feet away from the chapel. Because one of our trustees, Rob Miller, he looked after Lee. He was a doctor on the ward. And he basically worked out where the ward was in relation to the chapel.
Oh, gosh.
And he remembers looking after Lee, and he said he was like, and it's a kind of bittersweet things, because obviously when you have AIDS and you die of AIDS, people always imagine
get
these
really thin.
things. But Lee was, he said to Rob, he goes, I thought when you died of AIDS you lost loads of weight. I haven't lost an ounce. And so he's still a very big guy even up to the end. Even
Well,
when
did he
was
like
ill.
eating?
Yeah.
He loved life.
He loved life.
He loved life.
He loved life. He loved eating. He was always a big guy. And
He
he
would
liked
be,
to be really
you know
big.
what, he's up there, he's so proud of you, he would be so proud. So this is really the first acknowledgement of him, isn't it, really? I mean, you know, in the kind of art historical exhibition.
Yeah, and it's art historical and it's also very personal because people have been saying, oh, where's it going to go afterwards? But I don't know, it's all about being here in the chapel because it's so tied into when he died.
I don't think any retrospective could be better than what you've done.
No.
I really don't. And what about this snow leopard?
Dalmatian.
I know, how nice.
I mean,
Hannah, have you ever been tempted to
Yes.
pop them on?
Yeah.
Have you put them on?
No, I haven't. But
Oh.
when we went to meet Nicola for the first time, I went with my boyfriend Biscuit, who created all the plinths and installed.
I was going to say, the plinths are fantastic.
Yeah,
As a fellow gallerist,
custom
I'm
made.
really impressed.
Yeah. And when he walked in, he's about 6 foot something, and he basically, Nicola took one look at him and said, she goes, oh, you're about the same size as Lee, and she just basically threw one of his, dresses over his shoulder, and I just thought, oh my God, do you understand how special that is? And then Biscuit suddenly, loved it, absolutely
oh my
loved
God,
it.
how amazing!
Yeah.
How amazing! I mean, this one is just. What do you think came before? I mean, we've talked about Andrew Logan and the kind of incredible costumes there, but what do you think? Where do you think this came from? His ideas? What were his influences for someone growing up in suburban Australia in the 70s and 80s? I mean, as I did, there's nothing like this.
I think London. I think he, as soon as he could, he came to London because he knew that was where the exciting things were happening.
Interesting he didn't go to New York. What were his feelings about America?
He liked New York. It was a decision between London and New York, and then he said, after living in London, he said, I made the right decision. He did like New York, but he really loved London.
Yeah.
And he spent the first few months when he arrived here being the manager of Burger King, just earning money. So until he
I'm getting fed up.
loving the cheeseburgers. And then just by chance one night he managed to go into Cha-Cha's and then go into heaven, and then his whole life changed. He met the people that he came to London to meet.
And then he thought, I'm going to make these. And was he the only one doing this? Who else was doing it?
Well, it came out of the New Romantics, but it had that punky edge of just slightly rebelling against everything. And when Boy George first saw him, he was doing his Packy from Outer Space with this blue face.
Yeah.
And Boy George said, oh, I'd done a blue face. I'd done a blue face.
Yeah.
But then he said, oh, I looked closer, and I thought, no, this is something else. This is something different. So, I don't know, I think Lee was just a true original.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone
So
would
nothing,
do.
no, it just came.
No.
Yeah,
But I
you
think
can kind of see that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can and then this, of course, is just so charming. I mean, you could see this on the catwalk today, couldn't you, actually, as a dress with this sort of Mary Quant style flowers, and yet it's beyond.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because he hasn't tried to be too sensational, and it's just actually really pretty.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
Yeah. And the mask is always slightly disconcerting.
I suppose the mask,
Yeah.
just always having that.
All
mask.
of these dresses have the mask, so I think that also takes them into this other place. Because if they didn't have the covered face, they wouldn't be so edgy or, you know, have that kind of
Yeah,
drama.
actually, you're absolutely right. Yeah, because yes.
And also him physically, he was, you know.
What did he look like? What was his face like?
Well, I suppose you look at the Freud paintings, it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of chubby.
An Aussie bloke.
Aussie bloke, you know, looked like he could be playing rugby.
If only all the rest of the Aussie blokes looked like that. Can you imagine how gorgeous Australia would be? Like, you just land in Australia and all the men are looking so gorgeous.
Well, funnily enough, his nephew came to visit the show, and he's 19. He's called Finn, and he's 6'2", tall, blonde Australian.
No.
Yeah, he loved it. You know, he was really thrilled to be here and see Lee's work. But
Yeah.
I just couldn't help looking at him, thinking, "You're very Lee, like the height, the stature."
Oh, Hannah, this is such a wonderful journey that you're on. I mean, it really is, and I feel here is the beginning, because I think it will. But as I say, I think your choice of the chapel is so special, and that even if, you know, the V&A does it, as I'm sure they will, it nowhere could be more beautiful than here. And
Have you
capturing
seen the
this
angel
film.
room?
Oh, I mean, how incredible is that? I mean,
With the angel mosaics and.
okay, so this is really interesting, isn't it? Because how many fashion designers in recent years have put angel wings on backs? And he did this 40 years ago.
Yeah, 85.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anyone who had done it before. But now you often see those designers with the wings on the back. That is such a beautiful, beautiful piece.
I know, it's one of my favourites just because it works perfectly with the mosaic of the chapel.
Yes, and the way you've referenced the angels up there with the wings on those seraphims and cherubims.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just brilliant. That's the most brilliant piece of curation. Hannah, it's amazing. I just want to say we are so happy having you in Fitzrovia, and just thank you for everything you have brought, because this is not the only great show you've done. And I mean, have you loved your initial thoughts of Fitzrovia when you saw TJ Boulting building? Have they been proven correct by how much you love living in the area?
Yes. I mean, I don't live here, but I do live here.
I mean, you do, exactly, working
my
here,
life
yeah.
here.
You do. You were here in 2 seconds this morning. Yeah, you live here.
I do live here, yeah. I'm 59 Rybingham Street 99% of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
All here.
And you have an amazing toilet there.
I do.
Yes, which we will be coming to film at some point.
Okay, please do.
Yes, we're going to have a toilet competition.
Yes.
You have to come and see us.
Okay, have you got one?
Yeah, we have got a black and white toilet too, and I just think it's the weirdest thing. Like what is it? Like, it's just two galleries in the same place have black and white toilets. We can have an independent judge for which one's the best, both created by artists.
Okay.
But anyway, and then the placing of this one, I think, like the angels, even though these are the two least spectacular and showy in the sense of glittery of the pieces, I think they're profound. I mean, when I look at that, this sounds really weird, but like I think of Jura, I think of truly great, profound art. And that's not just Lee, that's your curation. I think it's outstanding.
Thanks for that.